So my name is Karen Gillan. Hello. I played Amy Pond.
My name is Billie Piper. I played Rose Tyler.
My name's Louise Jameson. Back in the day, I played Leela, warrior of the Seventeen.
Well, my name's Katie Manning, and I played Jo Grant back in 1970.
I'm Carol Ann Ford, and I played Susan, who was Doctor Who's granddaughter, in 1963 from the very first Doctor Who.
My name is Freema Agyeman. I played the character of Martha Jones, and my doctor was 10. David Tennant. I mean, I've just realised that little connection there. Tennant.
When she left, he was very sad and missed her, and decided he needed a companion to go with him, and then started recruiting young ladies. That sounds awful, doesn't it? At the time, it was just another job. We had absolutely no idea at all that it was going to run for 50 years, except Bill Hartnell. He said from the very beginning, this is going to run forever and ever and ever.
She wore very, very, very tiny little micro mini skirts and sort of 7-inch platforms, which was in an English winter, trying to sort of scamper around mountainsides and run over very rough terrain.
I loved my costume as Amy Pond. I had a huge input into it, and she did wear quite a lot of mini skirts, like some of the other companions before. But I never wore heels, ever, because I think that the footwear should always be functional when you're saving the world.
And at one point when we were filming, my boots were very, very thin, sort of thigh-length suede boots. And it was so cold, my feet actually froze to the ground.
Call it ignorance. I thought I was going into a kids' TV series. I didn't think the costume was gratuitous in any way. You know, she lived in the jungle, she would therefore be wearing leather. Of course, with hindsight, I'm thinking, yeah, give her an IQ, give her a decent argument, give her, put luscious dialogue in her mouth, and yeah, take her clothes off to do it. And I suppose if you put someone in a leather leotard and you bung it on after the football results, which is where the slot that Doctor Who used to have, inevitably there's going to be a male populace out there that's suddenly quite happy to sit and watch Doctor Who with their kids.
The girls nowadays really have it good. They write fantastically well for them. They're given proper three-dimensional characters to play, and they have a wonderful time.
With shows and with art, they represent life, they reflect life and society, and I think if you're looking at shows from like 30, 40, 50 years ago, shows like Carry On, there's a lot of bum slapping and foies. Where we are now in terms of programming and in terms of this show, the very fact that assistants are not called assistants anymore, they're called companions, means that people behind the show and the franchise were mindful of that. Yes, the main companions are always female, but increasingly they're equals to the Doctor. They're there to challenge him. To that respect, I think you're looking at a timeline and there would have been a shift.
As Leela became feistier when the Equal Rights Bill came in, I don't think that's any accident that those two things happened together. And I think because women now do have a much stronger say in everything and much more independence, still not quite there yet, but we're working on it.
There were times when I really wish I hadn't done it, because I have no idea what direction my career would have gone into. It more or less put a halt to my television career.
I wouldn't say it's defined me in my career, but it's certainly launched my television career, and I shall be, eternally grateful to it.
It was a struggle to get parts that weren't just kooky 15-year-olds.
Conventions consist of autograph sessions where you get a couple of minutes with each fan, panels, which I love doing.
I always find signing people's skin really weird with like a marker pen, like a Sharpie, and you're like, I'll just do it in a biro, and they're like, no, I want it in a Sharpie. That kind of stuff I feel really sensitive about.
And this guy asked me to sign his thigh, and then he went off and got it tattooed. So somewhere in America, someone's walking around with Louise Jameson tattooed on their thigh.
And I walked in and everybody just started to scream. And, you know, I didn't quite know how to react because all I'd said was, hello. So I thought, what happens when I say goodbye?
And I've had a really good experience with the Doctor Who fans. I mean, some people they say that like they have like this sense of ownership over it. They're very protective, but I see those as all positive things.
You know, there are worse ways to spend your day than sit there for 9 hours and have people say how much they've enjoyed the show, how much it's given them in their lives, and how happy they are to meet you. I mean,
because we meet on the circuit all the time, where all the companions, you know, chum up and meet up. It's like being on tour somehow, this weird play that doesn't ever quite finish.
It's always special to meet a Doctor Who companion because we share knowing looks. Like we understand, we get it.
I've not really seen anyone at conventions. I was sat next to the Incredible Hulk when I did my last convention.
I suppose you get used to anything. I mean, you think, a woman? Well, why not, I suppose?
I had a little discussion about this with a friend of mine who gets very hot-headed about it. She's utterly convinced the Doctor needs to be a woman. I don't think it does. I like it that it's a man.
I would love to have seen a female Doctor. I think the Doctor should have been a black, red-headed lesbian.
I like it that he has his little, you know, time traveller mate, and, you know, it's great that you see what's important in that kind of relationship, what a man can offer, what a woman can offer, and how it's okay to kind of feel like small around this enormous male character, and, you know, pulling him up on certain acts of behaviour that aren't acceptable and reminding him how to be human even though he's not human. Do you know what I mean? Those kind of womanly touches that are essential to that dynamic.
I'm open to the Doctor being a woman, but also Peter Capaldi, come on, that's great.
This alien who can regenerate and become anybody or anything, and thus far he has been a white male. I would love to see the Doctor be a woman one day. I would love to see the Doctor be a different ethnicity one day. I would love to see the Doctor speak and maybe not have an English accent one day. So, you know, I kind of feel like the major strength of that show is change.
I had limited knowledge of Doctor Who before I got the part, which I was quite pleased about in the end because I didn't really understand the size or, you know, of the show and its following, and I think that would have freaked me out actually, the pressure of kind of bringing it back in a way that really mattered to people. So I kind of just went into it thinking of it as an acting role.
I was so lucky that I came back in the Sarah Jane Adventures with Matt Smith. So you had my character 40 years later. It was a lovely curve to come back. But of course, because the Sarah Jane Adventures was for children's television, I'm now into, I think it's about my 4th generation of fans.
It gets difficult to be spontaneous about questions when that's the same old question. But I've mellowed, I think, is the answer. Oh, Bill would have loved to be around today to see how incredibly successful it is. He'd have gone around, I told you so, I told you so.